Hey guys, this is 3 of our lesson on quadratics. Alright, we just finished the other 2 videos. We were doing applications, real world problems involving parabolas. But now we're shifting away from the word problems, and we're just going to review finding the discriminant, telling what the discriminant means to us, and in general solving the quadratic formula. Okay, so for the first few problems, we're supposed to find the discriminant and interpret what the value means, the number and type of solutions. So remember, this is what we learned about the discriminant. It's all about whether or not the discriminant is positive, 0, or negative. Alright, keeping in mind that the discriminant is the number that's underneath the radical in the quadratic formula. It makes sense that if the discriminant is positive, alright, like 16 for example, we're going to have 2 real solutions. Okay, the 2 solutions come from adding and subtracting this number. So in this case it would be plus or minus 4. 6 plus 4 is 10, divided by 2 is 5. 6 minus 4 is 2, divided by 2 is 1. So that's how we get 2 solutions. And it would look like this. Now it makes sense that if the discriminant is 0, we're only going to get 1 real solution. That's because if the discriminant is 0, that means we're really doing plus or minus nothing. So that's not changing anything. So I'm not going to get 2 different solutions because I'm not really adding and subtracting anything. So in this case I would just get the 1 real solution of 3. So that's just sort of common sense if you understand that this is 0 under the radical, adding and subtracting nothing. And similarly, if the discriminant is negative, we're going to get 2 imaginary solutions. Because, again, just common sense, the discriminant is under the radical. So if it's negative, that means we have a negative under the radical. And that's where I comes from, imaginary. So we won't have any real solutions, we'll have 2 imaginary solutions. So just one more time, if the discriminant is positive, that's going to be 2 real solutions. If the discriminant is 0, that'll be 1 real solution. And if the discriminant is negative, that means there are 2 imaginary solutions. But if you understand what's really going on, you won't have to memorize that, it'll just be common sense. Okay, so we need to find the discriminant. So you know that that's going to be b squared minus 4ac. So that's going to be negative 8 squared minus 4 times 2 times 8. Okay, because a is 2, b is negative 8, and c is positive 8. Okay, so this will help us find the discriminant. Okay, see it? Alright, that would look like this. Oh, okay, that's giving us a discriminant of 0. Alright, so let's write that down. Alright, the discriminant is 0. That means that we have 1 real solution. Okay, let's take a look at problem number 2. Now, we have to have 0 on one side before we do any of this, so let's definitely add 6 to both sides of the equation. Now these are not like terms, so I'm going to have negative x squared, and I'm just going to bring down the plus 3x, and I'm just going to write plus 6 next to it, equals 0. So now we can see that a is negative 1. Okay, do not write negative x or anything, it's just negative 1. B is 3, and c is 6. Okay, so Lost my train of thought. Alright, yeah, we're finding the discriminant. So we're going to do b squared minus 4ac. So that means we'll have 3 squared minus 4 times negative 1 times 6. Alright, so there you go. So that is 33. Alright, so the discriminant is 33. That means there will be 2 real solutions. Alright, because it's positive, any positive number for the discriminant means that we will have 2 real solutions. Okay, let's take a look at number 3. Again, this is not in standard form, so the first thing we have to do is get 0 over here. So we definitely want to subtract 2x from both sides. And the x term goes in the middle. So we will have 3x squared minus 2x plus 4 equals 0. Okay, so a is 3, b is negative 2, and c is 4. Alright, so we're doing the discriminant. So we're going to do b squared minus 4ac. Okay, so that's going to be negative 2 squared minus 4 times 3 times 4. So it would look like this. So I've got negative 44. Alright, so the discriminant is negative 44. Alright, because it's negative, that means we have 2 imaginary solutions. Okay, what's next? So we're supposed to just go ahead and solve these using the quadratic formula. So this is just normal. Alright, but the first thing we will do is still we're going to find the discriminant. So look, a is 2, b is negative 8, and c is positive 8. So the discriminant is b squared minus 4ac. Okay, that's going to be negative 8 squared minus 4, maybe I should do this down here. Okay, b squared, so negative 8 squared minus 4 times 2 times 8. Alright, so there you go. And that discriminant is 0. Okay, so keep that in mind as you do the rest of the problem. So x is going to equal the opposite of b. So b is negative 8, so the opposite of b is positive 8, plus or minus the square root all over 2a. 2 times 2 is 4. Now remember, the discriminant is what goes under the radical. But square root of 0 is just 0, so you could really just erase this part. Alright, it's nothing, it's 0. You can just get rid of it. So that's going to leave us with one solution, 8 over 4, which of course simplifies down to 2. Okay, so x equals 2. Alright, so that's the answer for number 4. Okay, so number 5. We need all of this stuff to be on one side. So you can either subtract x squared from both sides, or you can subtract and add these two things. I feel like putting all this stuff on the left, so that's the way I'm going to do it. Alright, so I'm going to subtract 2x from both sides. Okay, so far that would give me x squared minus 2x is equal to negative 4. But I'm also going to add 4 to both sides. So these will cancel out. And that's going to give me x squared minus 2x plus 4 equals 0. Now you get the same answer that you would get if you subtracted x squared from both sides. Alright, but I'm doing it this way. So looking at it this way, A is 1, B is negative 2, and C is 4. So let's go ahead and find the discriminant. Alright, b squared minus 4ac becomes negative 2 squared minus 4 times 1 times 4. That is negative 12. Imaginary solutions are coming. Okay, so the discriminant is negative 12. That's away for later. But now let's go ahead and do the rest of the quadratic formula. So the quadratic formula says x equals opposite of b, so negative 2 becomes positive 2, plus or minus the square root. Under the square root we put the discriminant, so there's my negative 12. Alright, that's going to be imaginary. All over 2a. Well, a is 1, so this will just be 2. Okay, now this negative under the radical is simply going to become I. So I could erase that negative and put I instead. Alright, now I can just simplify the square root of 12. Alright, you should be able to do this in your head, but in case you still can't, it's 2 radical 3. Okay, so that means we have x equals 2 plus or minus 2 radical 3 over 2. Now don't forget about that I. It's not going anywhere. Alright, where does it go? Where does it go? Alright, when you have a number and a radical, it goes in between. Alright, see these 3 numbers? I see a GCF. Alright, whenever you have that, I recommend that you draw a heart around it to remind you that it has to be all 3 of these or nothing. I can't just reduce these 2 numbers. It has to be 3 or nothing. But all of these are divisible by 2. Okay, so that's going to give me x equals 1 plus or minus I radical 3. Okay, for a moment when I divided everything by 2, I had 1 plus or minus 1 I radical 3 over 1. But you don't need a 1 in the denominator, so I erased that, and we don't need a 1 in front of the I. So that's how I got this. Okay. How many more of these problems are there? Okay, I'm going to do 6 and 7, and then I'm going to have to stop this video. Or how many of these are there? Nah, you know what, I'm just going to power through, even if this video is a little long. But maybe I can speed up at least. So, I'm going to do the rest of this sort of fast. This, I need 0 on one side, so I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides. So that's going to give me 2x squared plus 3x minus 2 equals 0. Okay, so that tells me that a is 2, b is 3, and c is negative 2. Okay, time for the discriminant. B squared minus 4ac. So that's 3 squared minus 4 times 2 times negative 2. Okay, so I've got this. That gives me a discriminant of 25. Okay, so the discriminant is 5, alright? So now we can go ahead and do the rest of the problem. So x is equal to the opposite of b, so negative 3, plus or minus square root, then in goes the discriminant, all over 2a. 2 times 2 is 4. Now 25 is a perfect square, so that's going to be negative 3 plus or minus 5 over 4. Okay, so this is going to split up as two separate things. So this is negative 3 plus 5 over 4 and negative 3 minus 5 over 4. That's your plus or minus. Okay, fraction mode, negative 3 plus 5 over 4, that's 1/2. Okay, negative 3 minus 5 over 4, that's negative 2. Okay, so these are the two solutions. Alright, number 7. Okay, I'm just going to subtract 5x from both sides to get everything on one side. So minus 5x minus 5x. Notice I'm going to put it in the middle because it's the x term. So that's going to give me negative 3x squared minus 5x plus 2 is equal to 0. That tells me that a is negative 3, b is negative 5, and c is 2. Alright, time for the discriminant. B squared minus 4ac. So that's negative 5 squared minus 4 times negative 3 times 2. Okay, so there you go. So I get a discriminant of 49. Okay, so the discriminant is 49. Save that for later. Alright, so now we can go ahead with the rest of the quadratic formula. So x is equal to the opposite of b. So that's negative 5, so the opposite of b is positive 5, plus or minus square root of 49, all over 2a. A is negative 3, so 2a is negative 6. But the square root of 49 is 7. So this gives me 5 plus or minus 7 over negative 6. Okay, time to split this up. So that's 5 plus 7 over negative 6, or 5 minus 7 over negative 6. Fraction mode. So that's negative 2. And that's 1/3. Okay, so that would be the final answer. Well, those would be the final answers for number 7. Okay, now let's look at these last few problems. We're going to use a shortcut for these. And this is the shortcut that we're going to be using. Alright, if you have I to any power, there are only 4 possible ways that it will simplify. It either boils down to I, -1, -I, or 1. Those are the only 4 possibilities. And here's how you know. If you take the power and divide by 4, and then look at the decimal you get, okay? If you here's how you can tell. I is like I to the 1 power, right? If I divide by 4, look what I have. That's 1/4. Okay, that's why I'm getting 0.25. Okay, so if you see a 0.25, you know you're dealing with this situation right here, I. If I take the 2 and divide by 4, alright, that's 1/2, isn't it? Alright, and that's 0.5. So if you get a decimal of 0.5, you know you're really looking at this situation, -1. If you take 3 and divide it by 4, well, that's 3/4. 3/4 is 0.75. Alright, so you know that that's going to be -I. And if you take 4 divided by 4, that's 1 whole. No decimals at all. Alright, so if I want to see what I to the 35th power simplifies down to, using this shortcut, just take 35 and divide by 4 and see what you get. Okay, I get 8.75. Alright, but focus on this part, 0.75. Okay, that is this one, alright, 0.75, that's -I. Okay, so we just put -I for the answer. Okay, so you're going to have to memorize the chart, bottom line, okay? Number 9, 102. So what you do is you take 102 and you divide by 4 and see what you get. Okay, I'm getting 25.5. Alright, so that's 25.5. Again, just focus on the decimal part, 0.5. Alright, looking at the chart, 0.5 means that the answer is -1. Okay, so that's how I know that the answer is simply -1. Okay, not -I, just -1. Alright, and here's the last one. Using the shortcut, we'll take 262 and divide by 4. Alright, that's 65.5. Again, all that matters is the decimal part, 0.5. And looking at our little chart, nope, wrong one. 0.5, again, that's -1. So that tells us that we have -1. Okay, so that's how you can simplify I to any power. The only thing about that is you need to memorize this pattern, okay, to the point where when you first sit down for your test, okay, you're studying, you're looking at this picture, and I say, alright, you need to get started. When you first get your test, you should be able to sit there and write this down. I, -1, -I, +1. Okay, alright, so I'm going to quiz myself right now. So let's go to a blank paper, see if I can do it. Okay, I'll come back to this. Oh, my good old height diagram. I'm going to erase it. Okay, so we had I to the 1 power, I squared, I to the 3rd power, and I to the 4th power. Okay, now I know that I to the 1 power is just I. Of course, that doesn't change anything. I know that I squared is -1. Okay, I'm going to skip that one for a second. I know that I to the 4th power, that would just be -1 times -1. So that's going to be +1. Okay, and I to the 3rd power must be that -I. Okay, so I've got that. Now, those decimals. Okay, let's remember what the decimals are. They were in order of size. So this one was the 0.25, and this one was the 0.5, and this one was the 0.75, and this one was no decimals. Okay, so you should be able to create this chart from memory, just like I just did. Okay, if you can do that, then you can use it to answer all of these pesky questions. Alright, this is quite a long video. I hope it was helpful. Good luck on the quiz. I'll see you on the next video.